Hey, this is Alex Chaparro, and I am here for the C21 Circle Top Agent Podcast. And here for our next edition, I'm extremely ecstatic to have with you an amazing guest, a person who I'm extremely proud to call a C21 Circle agent. I'm extremely proud to call this gentleman my friend, and even prouder to call him my mentor, who I've known for many, many years in the real estate industry. So here, welcome John Kmiecik. John, welcome to our C21 Circle podcast called TAP.
Alex, thank you. Thank you. Very nice of you to think of me and include me in this series.
Yeah. So we're thrilled. So I'm gonna just give you a little bit of background on John, kind of give you John Kmiecik's greatest hits here. John Kmiecik is not only I think one of our best agents in terms of the customer service that he gives his clients, his commitment to the industry, and what he means to us as a leader among our 1,200 agents in 3 states. John is also a past president of the Chicago Association of Realtors and also a past president of the Illinois Association of Realtors. In both these leadership roles, he was the leader of organization that at one point, I think Chicago Association had 18,000 members, and the Illinois Association of Realtors countless thousands. I don't know what the membership rank is.
It was about 45 to 50,000 at one time, Alex.
Yeah. And, it's amazing for someone to step up to a leadership role like that as a volunteer, to lead 45 plus thousand individuals. And that leading them meant that somebody was caring and focused on advocating for their success and their well-being in this business. And for that, I applaud you, John, for taking time out of your life to be a volunteer to make the real estate experience better for realtors throughout this entire state. So now, John, why don't you give us let's I must say I'm one of these Marvel comic book fans, so I'm very much about the origin story. So why don't we start out and how things started for you, and how long have you been in the real estate business?
Well, fresh out of the University of Illinois, I taught school for a while. I was a 7th and 8th grade teacher for the Archdiocese of Chicago and taught for about 2 years at St. Turribius, which was located near 57th and Pulaski. And the remaining 8 years I spent over at St. John of God at 51st and Elizabeth. Both of those schools are now closed. It's not because of me, but both of those schools have since closed, and I moved on. During that time, I had bought a home. I bought a house in 1975. And I thought to myself, well, I could do this real estate thing. So I went to Daly College. I got my real estate license in 1977. So I started really as what I like to call a dual career agent. I was teaching school, and then after school, and then on weekends, I was spending a ton of time in the office doing real estate. I tapped into my social circles for a series of referrals. I spent all the summers and weekends honing the craft of real estate. And I took every potential client at that time very seriously because I didn't know what else to do. Every client who came to me via a referral or an ad call or a sign call from the street, or somebody who I had met at the Jewel Osco or over at Sears, who happened to have seen my gold jacket at the time that I might have been wearing it
and a name badge, right?
Century 21, right. But I really took advantage of all of that. Circumstances happened, and I was able to open up my own company in September of 1981, opened up Century 21 Kmiecik Realtors. Now, people said to me at that time, John, you got to be crazy, because mortgage interest rates were at 18%, wow. 19%. 30-year fixed rate mortgages were 17, 18, 19%.
So I shouldn't be crying. So I shouldn't be crying when I see my 6%.
I know. And people said to me, how are you going to survive all of this? Well, it was interesting because what saved me is I didn't know what I didn't know. And that sometimes will save us from a lot of danger and aggravation. But I was committed to doing a good job. And what we did do at that time, we sort of had a punt. We had to create solutions to the housing market. And we wrote up contracts on contract sales. We did a ton of purchase money mortgages at that point. We were able to reinvent how we did business. We grew into a 2-office agency of about 75 agents at that point. And we knew that the interest rates were not going to be 18% forever. So in about 6 months after all of that happened, interest rates plummeted to 12%, Alex.
Wow.
And at that time, we took all of those people who were on contract sales, purchase money mortgages, we walked them into our neighborhood savings and loans and our banks, and we had them refinanced.
Yeah.
And we were the heroes of the community because we were able to get sellers out of their homes. We were able to get buyers into their homes. And now they had a 12% mortgage for 30 years, and they were grateful for it.
And this was in 1975 or 76 era?
This was 1981.
1981.
At that
Okay,
point, 81, 82. And then about 82, 83, the rates got back into single digits, and we were able to do what was considered normal real estate. But after 32 years of ownership, Alex, and building Century 21 Kmiecik Realtors into a reputable company, I was still selling real estate during that time. Even though I was managing and owning and doing some volunteer work for the realtor associations, I was still selling real estate. I was very careful not to compete with my agents since I didn't think that was good for them. I didn't want to go ahead and endanger their business because I was interested in growing and being able to develop a business that was solid and reputable with agents who did not see me as competition. In 1999, 2000, I was starting to get a little bit antsy. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I redeveloped my franchise with Century 21. And in 2013, my franchise with Century 21 was expiring. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I should put the word out because I was wanting to do something a little bit different, certainly in the real estate field, but I no longer wanted to own. I no longer wanted to manage. I wanted to do something a little different. The opportunity came up where Century 21 affiliated out of Madison, Wisconsin, was coming into Chicago for the first time. And we were put together for conversation. It took about a year of conversations for me to realize that I did not want to reinvent my Century 21 wheel that I had spent 32, 35 years inventing. So I thought the best opportunity for all of us, after having consulted my top agents and a number of my key realtors in the offices, was to merge with Century 21 affiliated. We did that in 2013. I'm going to tell you, Alex, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in terms of business. I had no more ownership. I had no more management. I opted not to have either. And all I was able to do was reinvent, refocus John Kmiecik to become a full-time realtor in the streets. And that's what I do now. I list, I sell real estate, absolutely love it. It puts me back into the people business that I love, and I'm able to bring to my clients and customers a wealth of experience and expertise that in some cases is unparalleled in the real estate markets today.
Wow, that's amazing. So just a few follow-up questions on that. It's, it's Century 21 Circle. There's always that opportunity where we recently did an acquisition. It's very similar profile, a broker owner who had been in the business, I think, for close to 40 years. And it's great to have an opportunity to be able to provide that or give that hard work to somebody else. But in every case, it's always great the individual wants to go back to sales, and that's really where the heart is for all of us. It calls to you. And just real quick too, for some who are listening to this show, John referenced when he first got in the business the yellow jacket, which is the hallmark of Century 21. John, I am working on getting a tailored yellow jacket that I am going to make every effort to bring back the jacket. I'm just putting it down here. I'm gonna do it.
I gotta tell you, those jackets developed into a genius marketing piece. I kid you not. We would walk into the local grocery stores or retail operation down the street showing property, and people would always stop us and say, "You're with Century 21. I recognize that gold jacket." So it was an amazing marketing strategy at the time. Times have changed now. I'm not sure the gold jacket would be as popular as it had been years ago.
I'll wear it to parties. But anyhow, so
I don't have my gold jackets anymore. I got rid of them a long time ago. They were polyester, Alex, and I developed out of my polyester phase.
Okay. I think I was I don't know where I was in I think I was in Palm Springs, and they had a gently used, very stylish though, but it was a secondhand store, but they made it look like, I mean, it could have looked like the highest fashion in France, and the mannequin at the window was wearing, I think, your old yellow jacket. It was vintage. It's vintage. I'll work on finding you a yellow jacket. Okay. So next question that I had for you, and something that you brought up when you were talking about your origin story there, is you think about the challenges that we have today. There's rapid change in the industry. Interest rates are what they are, and they've been an increase from what we were. There's a lot of people who have gotten their license and got several years of ultra low interest rates, and that became the new normal. But every time has its own challenges, and you were what I'd like to call solution-based thinking. You were going to be successful. People were telling you not to get into owning your own company. You did it because you were solution-based thinking. You knew that you had to do these certain types of contracts, but when the economy shifted, you knew what to do for your clients. Can you talk to me a little bit more about how do you develop a mindset of not having a stopgap every time that you have a problem, but start thinking about, how do I either go around it, over it, under it? How do I overcome? How do I have a solution-based mindset?
When I started in 1977, when I got licensed, there was not a lot of formal education in the individual brokerages. You got your license, you showed up, you got a key to the office. They said, "There's your desk, there's your phone. Good luck to you."
Yes.
That's what happened. But as an educator, I had a real fondness and an understanding, and I knew the value of education. So what I did, I really watched and observed as many people as I possibly could. I attended almost every educational opportunity that came my way. And back then, in that generation, we had two very popular educators who did a ton of real estate education across the country. And they were Tom Hopkins and Danielle Kennedy.
Yes.
You may remember their name. They're a little bit younger than me, but they were phenomenal people. And I followed them across the country in some cases, and I learned from them. I also found that the Century 21 system, the franchise system, had at that time what was called Century 21 Learning Academy. Once again, I took every single class they ever offered. Century 21 has always had the best educational opportunities, programs, and systems for their agents. And Alex, they still do today.
Yes.
I believe firmly in that system. And many of those systems that Century 21 used were paralleled to the designations that the National Association of Realtors offers today. The CRB designation, the GRI, the CRS, the ABR, the SFR, all very similar to what Century 21 had offered years and years and years ago. However, you take all that education, and for me, it was trial and error because I couldn't use all of it.
Right.
What I had to discover was, who was John Kmiecik? What was my character? What were my strengths? And how do I use all that education to make me a better realtor? And what I found was that my strength was in my referral base. So I took every opportunity to work that referral base religiously, diligently. And Alex, after 47 years of being licensed, I still do that today. I have 47 years of customers and clients and key contacts, and I blend with them, I contact them, I'm in touch with them, I connect with them on every opportunity I can, because that is my source of business. What I also did is I took the time to get involved in local business chambers of commerce, business groups, church organizations, school organizations, neighborhood organizations, and certainly the realtor organizations, because from all of those avenues, I was able to receive, and still do, referral business. So the challenge was to get my name out there, to make sure that I did everything right. I have a very strong work ethic, Alex, and I attribute that to my mother and father, who had their own business for over 40 years in the McKinley Park neighborhood of Chicago. They owned a neighborhood tavern on the corner of 37th and Marshfield. And as an only child, I was 7 years old when they opened that business. And at 7 years old, I was expected to work with them side by side in that business.
Wow.
So I developed a real strong work ethic. My father always said, if you're not doing something productive, you should be.
Right.
In fact,
can I make that a T-shirt? I gotta make that a T-shirt.
Well, when I think back of Tom Hopkins, the trainer I had mentioned a little while ago, one of the key comments he always said was, at every given day of every given week, you should be doing something productive. Now, at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, the most productive thing for me to do is to sleep. But at 11 o'clock on a Monday morning, maybe the most productive thing for me to do is to make some contact calls to my key contact people to see who they know who might be listing and selling real estate. So even though it sounds as if you have to be working 24/7, all you have to do is be productive, whatever that definition is to you.
You know, one of the things that I've learned, about productivity is, one, be present for the moment and be in that moment and do the best job that you can. A lot of people are either not focused, or they're so focused that they're knotted in workaholism that they don't get anything done. But it's when you're being productive is the key there.
And all of that, Alex, all of that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you incredible stories of failure that I've experienced over these years because I just didn't know what to do or how to do it. Bottom line is, you get your butt up, you do it again and again and again until you get it right. And I've always believed in our business, you need to do it right the first time, because you might not have a second opportunity to do it right for that client.
That's right. That's a very powerful statement to make. Now, I just want to go a little bit deeper into, you'd mentioned that you have 45 years of a sphere of influence that continues to grow and grow and grow and grow past clients. I must say, every time we talk, you have the most interesting, fun type of properties. You have sold institutional properties, schools. What are some of the more interesting property types? I mean, for me and for many listening, it's either a bungalow or a condo or a two flat. You've gone way out of that scope. So can you tell me a little bit about some of the fun property types that maybe you've touched and the challenges that you've encountered?
Well, my base of operations certainly is the residential market. I mean, that's where my teeth are, and that's my expertise, and I love that. But over the years, I've been able to develop a relationship with the Archdiocese of Chicago. And for the past 15 to 20 years, I have had the opportunity to sell some of their closed churches, schools, rectories, um, convents, vacant land that have been donated to the Archdiocese. I have sold some incredible architectural masterpieces from the Archdiocese of Chicago. One of the most recent ones I sold was in my old neighborhood in McKinley Park. I was able to sell Our Lady of Good Counsel Parish. It was sitting on basically a half a block near 35th and 36th and Hermitage. It comprised a school, a beautiful, incredible merry-go-round type school, a double-decker church, a rectory, which was architecturally significant. And we had a number of offers on that property. McKinley Park, Chicago, is a real hot community right now, and there isn't much infill going on. But when you do find a 25-foot lot that's available to build, you can build a single-family home on that lot, and you can probably put it on the market for $749,000. So we had a lot of interest from developers on that, but we actually sold the property to somebody who was going to maintain the integrity of the architecture of those buildings. We sold it to a wellness center from outside of the community who wanted to expand their services to the McKinley Park, Bridgeport, Archer Avenue corridor, and they came in with a cash transaction at $1.55 million. So that's some of the stuff that we do. And what's interesting about working with the Archdiocese of Chicago is every one of their properties has deed restrictions. So we have to make sure that the potential buyer understands those deed restrictions.
Right.
And those deed restrictions are not terrible, but they are necessarily, they need to be understood up front. We've never had a problem with any potential buyer on those deed restrictions. We did one time, is we literally took the buyer, we went down to the Archdiocese, sat down with the Archdiocese of Chicago Real Estate Division. We talked about those deed restrictions, and the pastor who was buying that church from us in Blue Island was absolutely fine with the deed restrictions.
Right.
But that opportunity and handling those properties has allowed me to meet and talk to people from across the country who are looking for unique opportunities here in Chicago.
Wow, that's amazing. It goes to, you being a past owner and managing broker and past association president. You always hear this, that realtors need to be mindful that they have some level of expertise in that property type. Just because we have a license doesn't mean that we're qualified to sell every property type, because there's uniqueness to that, as far as that deal that you need to know. And so that's a real interesting, I think, just addition to your career to be able to sell churches and schools and that's amazing. I know that throughout the city of Chicago, we've seen some brilliant conversions of churches. I recently showed a property that was they were able to get I would say, for what we see in Chicago, this was a medium-sized church, and they were able to get, I think, like 14 units in the conversion. But what's one of the things that you said that I think sparks to not just schools and churches in Chicago, is just the architectural beauty of our city and how significant, architecturally speaking, these properties are. So you must see amazing things.
Yeah, what I like to do, I partner with Bill Erdman from our office on these properties. They take a lot of work. It takes a lot of legwork. And Bill Erdman and I have been a wonderful partnership with these properties for the Archdiocese. But what we like to do is we always like to understand the historical significance of these properties to the community, to the city of Chicago, and certainly to the people who have spent incredible opportunities during their lifetimes in services, baptisms, weddings, funerals, they were
Yeah.
parts of their lives. So I
Right.
like to research the history. I like to know who the architects were. I like to know the product and the materials that literally were used to build these properties. And we like to put together a portfolio of sorts and give them to potential buyers, because I believe that a buyer who's going to buy that should have an understanding of the historical significance that these properties have had, not only to the city of Chicago, not only to those neighborhoods, but to the individual people who have worshiped in those properties and have had life experiences for generations.
Yes. I want to sort of switch the focus of our conversation to I think a special experience that we both share. I would say maybe we're part of a fraternity. Um, it's you have been dedicated for decades to serving the community and your clients. And I would say you're their most ardent supporter when you're out there in the deal. But you also made a shift to represent all realtors when you went through the leadership track of being involved with the Chicago Association of Realtors. Can you tell us a little bit about? I mean, it's a special opportunity to be a president of the Chicago Association of Realtors, or any association for that matter. But can you tell us a little bit about what drew you to that and what you learned from that experience?
Well, my mother and father, having had the business they did for over 40 years, were always very active in their communities. My father was a member of the VFW and the American Legion and the Polish National Alliance and the Polish Roman Catholic Union. So I had a wonderful example of dad giving of himself to the community. He also believed that when you give to the community will give back to you. So it really helped his business as well. Mom was involved in the neighborhood mothers clubs, the ladies auxiliary. She was the neighborhood nurse every time one of the kids got hurt in the neighborhood after we were playing ball in the street. They'd come to mom, and mom would wrap them up and give them some food to eat and the soda to drink, and they were fine. So I had that example. So I've always been actively involved in my business. One time I was sort of tapped on the shoulder by somebody from the south and southwest sides of Chicago and said, we need some fresh blood to be involved at the Chicago Association of Realtors. And I didn't know what that meant. I just didn't know. So I did some research and I took a look at it and I said, well, yeah, I think I can get involved. So I got involved, and my very first committee assignment with the Chicago Association of Realtors was sitting on the admissions committee. And the admissions committee would sit and look at applications for membership into the Chicago Association of Realtors. And technically and legally, we couldn't do anything to refuse or reject anybody, but it was a formality of welcoming these people into the association at that time. I enjoyed that. I did that for 2 or 3 years. I chaired that committee for about 2 or 3 years. And then somebody came over and tapped me on the shoulder and said, well, we're looking for somebody from your neck of the woods, Southwest Chicago, since I had 2 locations, one on Archer and Kedzie and one at 79th and Pulaski. We're looking for somebody who can be a director of the association from that neighborhood. Would you be interested? And I said, well, okay, I'll think about it. And before you know it, I'm being pushed along and the name got involved. And I did that for a number of years. And then after a couple, 3 years, somebody came and tapped me on the shoulder again and said, well, we'd like somebody from that neck of the woods to be an officer of the association. Would you consider that? So every leadership opportunity that I had, every position I ascended to, was because somebody tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to do it. And same thing happened to you, Alex, I'm sure. And, sometimes you don't think you have enough to bring to the table. But then again, you have to sit back and say, well, if not me, then who is going to do that?
Right.
So I got involved. And as you know, my involvement was significant. It was steady. It was greater than I ever thought it would be. And what I learned is that a number of things that I certainly would be a 3-hour podcast if I told you what I learned. But I had the privilege and opportunity of meeting the best and the brightest realtors during that period. People like Lo Stahl, who became a mentor to me, who was the master franchisor of Century 21 in the northern part of Illinois and all of Chicago. He was a good friend. I loved him dearly. And by watching what he did philanthropically and business-wise, I would like to think I became a better version of myself. Also, people like Sheldon Good, the king of auctions, the commercial broker who everyone knows. He was the world president of FIAPSI for a year or two, also a past president of the Chicago Association of Realtors, built an empire in the real estate business. He became a dear friend of mine and still is, and I watched him over the years. So I had that opportunity not only locally, but throughout the state. And then when I became a director of the National Association, I met people who were very giving of themselves, who were willing to share with me the best and the brightest informational items that made me a better person. And I always wanted to bring that stuff back to Illinois and Chicago. But Alex, I also had the opportunity to work with some amazing association executives who were the basic foundation of real estate in Chicago, Illinois, and at the national level. People like Tom Hughes, Darcy Doherty, Ginger Downs, Michelle Mills Clement, certainly Gary Clayton, and now Jeff Baker at the Illinois Realtors. I literally stood on their shoulders when I was in leadership positions because they were the foundation. They knew what was happening, good, bad, and not so good. And I was able to learn from them and again, take everything that I had learned, formulated it into what I felt was part of my personality, my character, and the integrity I wanted to bring to the table. And I'm hoping that from all of that, we did some good for the real estate business on large.
Well, you did. What year were you president?
I was installed in 1995. I was 1996 president.
Okay, and I was at your installation.
I think that's the year, Alex.
Yeah, I didn't know you at that time, but I was in the installation.
And I was the 2004 president of the Illinois Realtors.
Got it. I was 2007, maybe 6, 7.
Yeah.
And
well, you know, it's an amazing opportunity. There was a time, Alex, and not too many people know about this, so I'm sharing some stuff that I probably haven't shared with even you. There was a time right before we were installed as president-elect of the Chicago Association of Realtors that I thought of walking away from all of that. There were some things going on that I wasn't really happy about, things that I thought could have been done better, out of my control, but I thought that it wasn't exactly what I wanted to get involved in. And a couple of my top agents who were very good friends of mine and were very supportive of my leadership roles at the local, state, and national levels, they came in to see me one time and they said, "Can we see you for a second?" And I was used to that, John, you got a minute conversation. But I sat down with them and they closed the door behind them and they said, "John, we heard a rumor that you're not interested in, or you may not be interested in, pursuing the presidency of the Chicago Association. What's that about?" So I shared briefly a little bit about my concerns and maybe my unwillingness to make that commitment. And they sat there, and as God is my witness, Alex, they sat there and said, "John, out of the millions of people in this world, there have been only a select few who have had the privilege of being the president of the Chicago Association of Realtors. We don't want you to miss that privilege."
Yeah.
And based on that, I reevaluated and we went forward. But how wonderful that people cared enough about me and my life to be able to do that and offer that advice for me. So I do listen. out of my good ear to the advice of good people.
I don't know who said this. I know that the one of the co-founders of NARAP, the National Association of Realtors, used to say this quite a bit in his speeches, but it's a call to leadership, and what he would say, Ernie Reyes would say, if and he was quoting somebody else, but if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And these are special opportunities. It's like I said, it's a very small fraternity. We've been around for 100 years, but still, it's a small fraternity of people who have served in this position. And one of the things that I was thrilled and honored to be able to have this time to chat with you is that at our company at C21 Circle, we do have quite a few past presidents who are within our ranks of agents. And it's a special, I think it's just a special treat that we have as a culture, that so many leaders who have given have been attracted to be part of this company as well. And we're certainly thrilled and honored that we have your wisdom and just everything that you mean to us as an agent and to your clients as well. So I just have a couple more questions for you. And there's a lot of people who come to this podcast who are in the beginning or considering getting into the real estate industry. You have 40 years, 45 years, correct?
47.
47 years. And you were in the business before the internet, is that correct?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Yep.
And I will not take credit of creating the internet either.
You were in the business when we had pagers and when cell phones were emerging, right?
Fax machines.
Fax machines, yes. Well, in fact, the one thing that I love, if we're going to go back to memory lane, now we can find houses at the palm of our hands with our cell phones. Before, there used to be a phone book size MLS that would be delivered to you on a weekly basis. And that's how we knew about properties. And so, but you've seen it all. You've seen the hardest of the hardest market cycles. You've not only seen them, you thrived in them. What advice would you give, especially, in looking at the changing and evolving landscape of our industry, what advice would you give to somebody new in terms of being able to plant their flag and be successful in this industry?
Well, I think education is one. I mean, I believe that the newer people have to educate, even though a lot of the companies are offering educational opportunities today. What I find really exciting is that the Realtor Association, certainly in our neck of the woods, they offer amazing opportunities for education. I am enamored with what Century 21 Circle offers within our educational systems. You could do live educational opportunities, webinars. You can record things, play them later when you're sitting in your pajamas at 11 o'clock at night and have nothing else to do. There are so many opportunities for education. The problem with that is that because there are so many resources for education, the newer agents, I think, are getting a little confused. So I think they need to be very careful and discriminatory in terms of what they listen to, how they bring it into their lifestyle, because real estate is not a job, Alex. It is not a career. It's a lifestyle. It's a 24/7 type situation that you have to be ready for at any given moment. So I think that the education is part of it. The second thing that I would advise anybody new into the business, whether you're a younger person or somebody who's advanced in years, looking at this as a second or third opportunity for a career, stay aware of the technology. Make sure that you know what the technology offers to you. Make sure that you don't become a master to the technology, but you become a master of the technology. The applications that we use today are phenomenal. I'm a big fan of social media. As you know, you taught me, Alex, how to use Facebook many, many years ago. When I was green, I didn't know what to do with it. And I am a huge fan of Facebook. In fact, a lot of my business today comes from the individual private pages that I belong to from my high school, St. Rita High School, from the school that I used to teach at, from some neighborhood organizations to which I belong. So a lot of them, when they think of real estate, they're thinking of me. And that's what I think young people have to always think about, newly licensed. You want everybody you know to think of you when it comes to real estate. You want every client to be your client for life, for the rest of either their life or your life. Because when it comes to real estate, you're the expert. I also encourage all of the people who are coming into the business to look at the basics. Even though technology is a good thing, look at the basics of this industry. Till today, Alex, I still do regular mailings to about 300 people.
Wow.
Either with Christmas cards, 4th of July cards, spring cards. I send lottery tickets to my clients and my key contacts. I do a ton of stuff that's different, unique, and unusual, that basically will let them know, hey, John is around yet. Oh my gosh, I forgot. And usually when I send those 300 mailings out, I get about 30 to 40 to 50 responses from people either texting me, emailing me, or calling me saying, I got your mail. And by the way, my neighbor a couple doors down is thinking about selling their house come fall. Would you be interested? What's the obvious answer, Alex? Absolutely.
Right.
So all of my business today, all of my business, every single piece of my business, whether it's seller, buyer, renter, investor, is via referral.
Amazing.
And if all of the people who are starting this business can work toward that, eventually they're going to be fine. They're going to be absolutely fine.
Well, John, thank you for joining us. This is your first visit to the podcast. We'd love to have you back. And thank you for
I have a lot more to share with you eventually, Alex.
I know we're gonna get it on tape as well. So thank you so much, John. And thank you for everybody for downloading and streaming this podcast. We have new content coming up every week. And again, thank you, John, for joining us.
Alex, thank you. You're the best. I appreciate you.